Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hearthstone Xfinity tournament. We're getting ready for our next match, Hyped versus Trump. This one should be fun. Don't know too much about what these guys will bring specifically, but I do know, generally speaking, Hyped likes his rogue, he likes his mage, and I think Trump likes his paladin. So if that is the case, then I want to see how these end up panning out. These two did play last week, as they played in the NVIDIA event, I believe, and I think Hyped won 3-0.
Yeah,
I want to say that.
Well, that being said, Trump, he's a player that really does a lot of research into his opponents, and he's also likes Warrior a lot. So if he knows that Hyped, he's obviously a very roguey player. He plays rogue a lot. I think it's very likely.
Player.
He's very likely that Trump won't actually bring that paladin.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, fair enough. So as you saw in the other parts of the bracket, we had quite a day of matches. Lothar beat Savit to start things off, then Dog defeated Nadia. Forsen was able to take out Orange, and then RDU defeated Strife Crow, keeping up the good performance there. Good job, Radu.
Yeah. Now, we've had a bracket contest going on throughout the day. Of course, in this tournament, not only the players, but also everyone else sitting at home could have won up to $10,000. If you had actually made a bracket yesterday and gotten everything right, you would have won that $10,000 first prize.
That's right. For those who predict the bracket perfectly, not perfect on our end. We're definitely guessing a little bit more wrong than, all right, I guess we're average. If you combine our results, we guessed around average. But, some of us are right, some of us are wrong, and unfortunately for most people, I think almost all the brackets have been eliminated. A lot of people had Strife Crow going through. So
yeah, we before Strife Crow versus RDU, we actually only had 44% of players.
44 players.
No, not players, but 44 brackets being correct so far. So I would suspect that most people would pick Strife Crow over RDU. So probably it's something closer, like only 20 people are eligible for the $10,000 prize right now.
It'd be really surprising if a lot of those 44 players picked Strife Crow or picked RDU to beat Strife Crow, all of them to say, just because of the prestige behind Strife Crow's name. Trump versus Hype, though, it could go either way. Both these players have, have some rabid fans. Some people who are Trump subs definitely love him, and then Hype fanboys or fangirls are definitely mad about him too. Druid for both players, and then we have Warrior, Hunter, Mage, and Rogue as the splits.
Yeah, Trump, as I said before, he researches his opponents, and I think even though I think Paladin right now is his favorite class, he's not going to bring it to this tournament because he knows his first opponent is going to be Hyped. I also feel that Hyped has been, unfortunately, a bit predictable lately in tournaments. He's pretty much brought Druid, Mage, and Rogue every single time in his lineup. And the problem with that is that everyone's actually bringing the same exact lineup against Hyped. They're bringing Druid, Warrior, and Hunter against him because all three of those classes counter Rogue. And in the Conquest format, all you have to do is win once with every single deck. So Trump's strategy going into this match might actually just be to 3-0 Hype's Rogue.
That would be something that works out, but is it too short-sighted? Because Lothar doesn't have a rogue, so if he goes on and beats Hyped and then goes to face off against Lothar, will that strategy backfire? Who knows?
I still think, overall, it's a fairly solid strategy because everyone is bringing Druid and Hunter anyway, and Trump is bringing those two solid decks as well. In addition, he's also bringing a Warrior, which might just take off a lot of wins against the numerous face Hunters in this deck.
Sure.
Or in this format.
Sounds good to me. Well, the first match will be Warrior versus Rogue, and that gives the advantage to Trump for sure. But if Hype somehow magically defeats this Warrior, then that's a really good relief point. Then all of a sudden the entire strategy might crumble for Trump.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of players. They say that Rogue is the #1 deck these days on ladder or even in tournaments, but more and more we've seen a lot of Rogue players just get swept 0-3. For example, Dog did yesterday, and he almost got swept 0-3 again against Nadia because his Rogue just lost so many matches.
Well, thankfully it stopped. Dog definitely didn't get swept again. That would have been soul-crushing. All right, the game has begun, and Warrior will come in with the edge, but it's still not unwinnable. But every time someone says that, it's like I still have really yet to see the percentages even out. I feel like Warriors is a big advantage over Rogue.
Especially because Trump is opening up with the Fiery War Axe. Even though Rogue is not an aggressive deck, they just have so many 3/3s that the axes can just deal with so easily. Both the weapons, in fact, match up so well against every single Rogue minion. War Axes against Farseers and SI Agents, and the Death Spite against Azure Drakes, Lothebs, and even Violet Teachers if they already have a charge off.
All right, starts off on the coin and the extra card. Trump has the fireworks, like you said, but he also gets Harrison Jones. Another important card against Rogue.
Yeah, and even Acolyte of Pain. This is pretty much the ideal opening for Trump.
Yeah, Acolyte does get shut down relatively easily. Oh, Gorehowl.
That makes sense. And in a lot of recent lists, Gorehowl has been added back into the format. It's mainly, I feel, because, first of all, it's really good against Druids. And also, a lot of Warriors have been cutting the upper halves of their decks, like the big legendaries like Alexstrasza and Ragnaros, in order to be better against the aggro matchups. And if you take off that power, you have to add something back in to have at least have a chance against the unfavorable matchups.
No, Gorehowl is so good for card advantage.
Yeah, also just like Fibonacci put it in his Warrior deck, so everyone's going to copy Fibonacci. Like, people talk about Sho and Kit Kats being the Warrior gods, but like Fibonacci just, oh man, he only plays Warrior. He only plays Warrior. First of all, he only plays Warrior, and second of all, he held rank #1 legend for 3 weeks, pretty much in a row. Like, people took it back for like a few hours at a time, but every time he saw he wasn't #1 anymore, he just got it back with like 1 or 2 games.
Where did he finish in March?
#1.
Oh, did he?
#1.
Good for him, man. I've always seen him like. Well, yeah, I wasn't sure if he finished #1 though. I've always seen him like top 5. Just you know, he's also stomped me many times.
Yeah, me as well.
So Violet Teacher does come into hand. Unfortunately, nothing to combo with it just yet. However, there still are plays this turn, Monk. Just about what he wants to weigh. Like, what's the better thing to do here? Is it better just to cycle and kill? Is it better to develop something and try to challenge the board?
This is exactly the type of turn where, like, if I were playing this as the Rogue player, I would have no idea what to do. Like, there's just so many options. And I guess that's the appeal of playing Rogue, right? That's why there are so many dedicated Rogue players. It's kind of like Priest as well. Like, Priest has a lot of dedicated Priest players because, like, the plays aren't very straightforward.
What I'm scared about the most is not necessarily what this Armor Smith can do, it's about what happens afterwards. If he drops Sludge Belcher, how do you get rid of that Armor Smith, if ever? I'm okay with just passing after the Fan of Knives, because as much as you're afraid of it, you still have the ability to Blade Flurry and then SI7 the Sludge Belcher.
Yeah, that's true.
But
that belongs in the museum.
Unfortunately, that's not the move that best benefits him. Or maybe it is. Who knows? You know, if it's better to Harrison now than for like the game-winning Blade Flurry, sometimes you might prefer it the other way around.
That's true. Fortunately for Hyped, he has a pretty good follow-up response to that play as well.
Oh wow! Actually, I'd never noticed the Golden Eviscerate. Like, has blood on it. That's gore. You see that?
I didn't, but...
It's actual blood, like, coming out of the guy, but it's like an infinite loop. That guy's caught in the art portrait.
I wonder if it's any different in the Chinese client, because, like, sometimes the Chinese client, they have a lot of
different animations.
Yeah, different animations, especially for the ones that have gore in them.
Yeah.
For example, like, in World of Warcraft, like, you weren't allowed to have, like, zombies or something like that.
Yeah, gross. Man, I just had some Chinese food, Monk, so my stomach couldn't really take that. Violet Teacher has to go down. It's one of the ways that Rogue can win. But thankfully for Trump, he's got the perfect answer, Death Spite. But this gives initiative over to Hyped. Drake does fall very easily.
Yep.
But as much as the Drake goes down, you still have Sprint the following turn. Not to mention the... Well, let's see. Maybe you can develop the 3s instead, Earthling Ring Farseer and SI7, because it makes it difficult to clear both ways.
Yeah. The issue is that if Death Spite is on the field, like basically Death Spite is always going to 2-for-1 in this matchup. There's just no way it doesn't. And it clears every single minion at this point.
The thing is, though, if you play the Drake, it's a clear. If you play the 2/3 drops, One of them stick.
That's
so
true.
I like that.
I agree.
Plus, it's more mana efficient too.
In addition, the Drake, you can combine it with the black backstab in a future turn, or a possible another eviscerate.
All right. Well, Dr. Boom comes down. And Hype does not have the direct answer right now, but maybe he picks something up.
I noticed there's a lot of situations where there's both a Earthring Farseer and an SI agent on the field, and in pretty much every circumstance, the players will choose to kill the SI agent just to play around like Panda and Shadow stuff. It's just a small thing, but it's really interesting, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's completely fair. The SI7 has much more potential for chaos than Farseer.
It's nice that people are paying attention to that kind of stuff that's like very minor. Whereas I feel like they're not paying attention to the pilot shredder stuff,
Right.
where it's actually more impactful, right?
Yeah, it's more meaningful.
Like the 3% chance that either a Direwolf Alpha or a Flametongue Totem come on the field is more likely than someone is running Shadow Step in their Rogue decks these
You're
days.
Right. And I feel like it's going to eventually happen, like sometime this tournament, where we're going to have to bring that up.
You'll be so happy.
I mean, but the thing is, I feel that as the rounds move on, people will start doing that, and it will be relevant. Drake comes down, has to pick up, again, something to answer. Whoa, that's a 4 damage backstab. You can kill Dr. Boom.
Okay, I didn't expect that one.
Yeah,
But that's actually the most efficiently I've ever seen a Rogue deal with Dr. Boom.
I haven't anticipated that, because also the Thanos cycles, too. The only way that this can be salvaged for Trump is if he one-shots the Drake for 4 damage.
You can do it, Trump.
Use that boom bot.
Use what your mama gave you.
Control it. There you go. See? Just do that.
Okay. I guess that's...
Problem solved.
That was easy.
Now, here's like the ultimate first world problems for a warrior. It's like you have so many weapons, so many things to do. Like, I don't mind developing Savants because it's a big threat, but at the same time, it's like I'd rather just set up something so that way Alexstrasza becomes really powerful next turn.
That's true.
So, I think I would have enjoyed playing the Gorehowl a little bit more. I will see. Both are fine, honestly.
I guess this play, like, it allows you to armor up a bit more, and that's...
Yep.
Like, one of your other win conditions is just armoring up so much that your opponent can't kill you ever at all.
Right, running out of damage. Violet Teacher, prep sprint. Picks up 2 saps. Pretty good for tempo, but does he have enough time? I'm not so sure. Like, what stops him from just Alexstrasing the face and just charging it? Or is that just still too much damage potential?
I think no matter what, you feel still pretty safe at this point. You've already seen what preparation used, and I feel like preparation and Tinker Sharpsword are like the most important cards to keep track of in this matchup, because those are the only ways that your opponent can burst you down. This is kind of like the safer way.
It's really safe, and you can't really blame him for that whatsoever. Let's see, Drake. I want to say it's helpful, but yeah. He needs to eviscerate and then I guess Loatheb.
Yeah, Loatheb is just so superior because it doesn't just die to a second Death Spite, but it does die to the Gorehowl.
And Gorehowl was really effective against all these minions. It just shuts down any possibility for Hype to get value off the oil.
Yeah, usually the way that that Rogue wins this matchup is they stick a minion onto the board and buff it with Tinker's Sharpshooter Oil, but that's not going to happen here. Another way is they use their South Sea Deckhand for the oil, but I've seen Hype lately, he hasn't been using South Sea Deckhand in his hands. Instead, he's been trading it up for Defias Ringleader.
Yeah, the Defias Ringleader is definitely a hyped favorite here.
Yeah. Unfortunately, in the last 2 tournaments I've seen him use Defias Ringleader in both the circumstances, the South Sea Deckhand would have been better.
Going back to Trump land, he's got the shutdown. Still waiting on that Gromosh. He's been on a draw for lethal for a couple turns now. Guess since there's nothing else, you just want to kill that Drake. And why not just play Shield Maiden or Sludge Belcher? Because I don't mind either way. Shield Slam that?
Sure, why not? I had like a completely different play in mind.
Yeah, like it doesn't truly matter.
Exactly.
Like in the end, we can argue which play is the most optimized.
I mean, I probably would have hit first and then gone for it, but yeah, this was completely fine. There's like basically no difference. I thought he was gonna do some kind of like Shield Maiden play as well. That's also an option, but he's just trying to stack as much armor up as possible.
So Pilot Shredder with certainly a minion that he needed. The problem is that he can't, like Pilot Shredder didn't get to stick, so he can't sap and then go major damage with oil.
If you use up your second sap too, that just means your opponent knows that, oh, okay, my minions are just gonna stick from now on, and they can play around that, like just throwing down Ragnaros onto the field, for example.
So I'm guessing Hype's gonna attach his oil and wait, right? He's gonna wait for a massive Blade Flurry.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Big Game Hunter is gonna come down.
Big Game Hunter into, I guess, the Sludge Belcher again.
Yeah, possibly a Shield Slam, maybe? Okay, you can just hit that.
Yep. Doesn't need to necessarily hold on too long. I mean, this is basically going through the motions where Hype should play this out just in the case his opponent doesn't have anything, but Trump has so many answers. There's almost no way. I mean, Trump's also plays so conservative to the point where, like, if he played aggressive, there was a chance that he could have just killed Hype through just sheer weapon damage. Like, he could have burned him to death by now.
Yeah, that's true. It's definitely an option, but it's definitely the less safe option. Like the way Trump is playing it now, Hype basically has like 1 to 0% chance to win. If Trump had gone the more aggressive option, he could have potentially ended the game right now, but he had like a 5% chance to lose, I would say.
Fair enough. It's the more consistent and fair play.
So there's potentially very big Blade Flurries and a very big Edwin Van Cleave, but I feel like you might want to get more value out of it. No.
So he Blade Flurries, attacks with the dagger.
Yeah, he's actually
Edwin.
just playing on the defensive right now, so this is fair. Is he? Oh.
Oh, he's making the biggest Van Cleef in the world. Wait, okay. This is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, Trump actually doesn't have a way to deal with this.
What? All right. He just draws Gromosh, right? Oh, okay.
Oh.
He doesn't.
Wow.
He can he kill that? I don't. Yeah, he can. He can kill Van Cleef. He can just shield and shield slam twice. So he double shield slam. That was like a scary moment, I guess, for Trump, but he has the perfect answer.
Yeah, and even if he didn't have that, like, the worst case scenario was that he could hit it and then armor into double shield slam.
Yeah.
Like, that still would have worked.
And it would have been at 14, and Hype couldn't have anything else.
Yeah.
So this should close out the game here.
That
pretty cute move, pretty cool move from Hype, but
yeah, I think even Trump was pretty impressed with that play.
Right.
He, like, gave a nod. He's like, okay, you did that. That's pretty good. I'm impressed.
All right, kill that Van Cleef off. And, you know, Rogue's just out of options. Van Cleef is another way that you can possibly stack that damage. What does Trump have? Pilot Shredder.
Number 2.
I suppose so, but that weapon damage, we've been talking about it for a while. Trump had the opportunity to end the game for quite some time, but that should finally answer it. And in the end, Warrior ended the game with 23 health. So
yeah, still not the most I've seen, but certainly pretty good.
That's a pretty good benchmark if you ask me. So Rogue still struggles against Warrior.
That's true, and we might be seeing Hyped fall into the same trap that he's been falling into like the past few tournaments, predictably bringing Rogue into every single series, and just getting it stopped by a combination of Druid, Warrior, and Phase Hunter. pretty much the 3 decks that I feel like that are the best against Rogue.
Mm-hmm. And as a result, starts off the series pretty rocky. That Warrior's out, which means his Druid's a lot weaker. Because then Druid, well, the Druid can still beat the Hunter. Druid can still beat the Druid. It's still doable for sure. In fact, if Hype's targeting anti-Druid, then that could be his ticket back into the series.
Yeah, I feel like the best chance that Hyped has in order to win with the Rogue is that Rogue versus Druid.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll most likely want to match that up.
All right. Well, both these guys brought Druid, which means that's 12 Druids we saw today. And more importantly, we still have the opportunity for almost every player to win with Druid. Because if you bring Druid, you win with it. That's pretty much the notion here. 7 out of 8 players have won with Druid today. Savitz didn't win.
That's unfortunate. But you know what? Druid still stands to be very strong. I feel like someday they'll have to nerf just the core mechanics of Druid, because every time they release like new somewhat cards that can neutral cards, for example, I feel like most of the time they're just always going to be really good against Druid in Druid. Emperor Thurzane is a prime example of that. It's the only class that can innervate Emperor Thurzane out, which gets it even more value, more so than any other class.
For sure. If Innervate was only gain 1 mana this turn, would people still play it?
So just a coin.
Right, but you get an extra mana slot.
Probably not, because that's a nerf of 50%. Like, if you make any other card worse by like 50%, like imagine if Sylvanas were a 3/3, right? Or a Yeti were a 2, let's say a 2/3.
Sure.
Yeah.
So you're saying no? Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah, 50%.
That's my official answer.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I guess there's no way to really balance that then, without just making it really difficult to.
You know how you could balance it? Gain 1 to 2 mana at random. That would be great.
No, Monk. Veto.
All right. How about like give 0 to 4 mana at random?
Oh gosh. How about give 2 mana to yourself, 1 to your opponent next turn?
Yeah, it's not bad. Not bad at all.
Druid versus Rogue is coming up next. Hype's going to stick with Rogue. And if he loses here, I'm pretty sure I'm ready to crown Trump the winner of the series, and Monk was right. Because Monk picked Trump to win the series. I picked Hype.
One of the reasons I did pick Trump was because I feel like Trump would do research into Hyped, and he would do the same strategy, because Hyped 2 days ago, he played against both Reynad and RDU, and both Reynad and RDU used the same exact lineup of Warrior, Hunter, and Druid. And then in the previous tournament, where the Amazon tournament, I also believe Hyped, once again, he brought the same lineup of Mage, Druid, and Rogue. Yeah.
All right. Well, if he's going to be super predictable, it's going to be tough for him to throw his opponents off guard. But if he plays really solid and he's well known for it, I mean, that's part of his charm. I mean, this is what Hyped is, and if you hate him, then you have no business following him if that's the case. Because it's like if you hate the fact that he plays Rogue and Mage, it's just what's iconic to him.
Yeah. Does anyone actually hate Hyped though? I can't name a single person.
Probably other heterosexual males.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, they probably hate Hyped.
Well, I don't hate Hyped.
Well, yeah, there's that.
Sure.
Hyped is going to start off with Violet Teacher and the Pilot Shredder. So that's nice to have those minions early on. Druid doesn't have the Innervate Shade into Wild Growth. That seems to be the combo that we've seen to start things off.
Yeah.
But there's still time. There's still time for him to get that.
We saw Hyped. He played 2 piloted Shredders in the previous game. And usually we see only 3 4-drops. Either 2 pilot Shredders and 1 Violet Teacher, or 2 Violet Teachers and 1 pilot Shredder. But I feel like Hype strikes me as the type of guy who would run just multiple 4-drops. After all, a lot of players have been saying that the 4-drop is the slot that is most impactful in the game. It's the slot where...
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, there, of course. Why not? Why not Wild Growth? But I was saying, it's like the slot where the game kind of changes, because the impactful 3-drops are like Shade, but it's only available in certain classes, and other classes don't really have impactful 3-drops, right? So,
All right, well, Wild Growth on turn 2, perfect for the Mayor of Valuetown. Hype's going to try to take advantage of the passivity through taking the board advantage. And Trump will fight from behind, but he's got some pretty high-quality minions, if you ask me.
Oh, that surprised me a lot, actually.
That he didn't coin Harrison?
Or, no, that he didn't coin any 5-drop. Because now this Piloted Charter gets traded into easily.
Oh,
right?
man, actually,
oh, man,
that
this is,
prep was
this is the
nuts.
play I always talk about. On turn 4, if you Violent Teacher prep into Eviscerate, you pretty
Look at
much
that.
just
Blood.
win this matchup. Oh, wow.
Yeah, you saw that.
I saw that.
That was graphic.
They're children here.
Oh, 1 health minion goes down to the weapon, and that SI7 agent gets to stay alive.
So, yeah, that's a difficult position for Trump.
Right. Actually, a very difficult position, you're right. Maybe if he... man, those 1/1 tokens are actually so difficult to deal with because no matter what you put out, you can guaranteed kill with those tokens plus the SI7. Even if you shut down spells too. And this is where Sap becomes a nightmare. If you draw Sap, that is dangerous. That is still dangerous.
Preparation is still very dangerous because now he can Azure Drake into possibly either Eviscerate or Sap. Unfortunately, Blade Flurry is not Eviscerate or Sap.
Yeah, but he still has a clear with just his weapons. And if he prep Blade Flurry, he only keeps a 1/1. That stinks. Yeah, not worth it.
It does summon 2 more 1/1s though.
Yeah.
And
actually,
yeah.
that's true.
And you've seen Trump doesn't have a first swipe, so he's probably not going to play it this turn. I feel like this is fine.
Yeah, I was just thinking that you don't get to keep SI7 agent, but the extra 1/1s, you're in hindsight, yeah, they're actually pretty good. So.
Wrath.
If he had Wrath Swipe, would have been more useful. Yeah, Trump's really far behind despite getting Wild Growth, and like you said, that Bio Teacher prep play was just absolute bonkers. Because now those 1/1s get to pick up, effectively make sure that the trades are always going to be super good.
There are actually a lot of viable lines of play here. A really risky play would be just to Wrath into hopefully get a swipe. And if he did get a swipe, that would pretty much almost shut out the game. This is definitely less risky though. It's more solid play, but now he's looking at all the damage on the board.
Innervate? What would he innervate out? Wrathing doesn't actually do much other than draw him a card or do some damage onto a minion.
I think he's just really digging for that swipe. And he thinks that he'll probably have to use that Wrath anyway on the next turn, so he might as well save 1 damage here.
Fair enough. Hype gets the oil.
So now the real question here is, if he plays the Piloted Shredder, where does he put it? Did you have this talk with Hyped?
No, I didn't.
Oh.
If he puts it to the far left or right, I'm going to be sorely disappointed.
Come on. Oh! So
he
Hyped,
got it.
Hyped is actually the first player of the day to place the Piloted Shredder correctly.
Deliberately right in the center.
I'm
Good
feeling
stuff.
really bad for Trump now. That just means that Hyped can't lose at this moment.
Uh-huh.
I really hope that Hyped, like, Trump tries to kill that Shredder, and for like a Doomsayer, for example, and out comes like a Flame Tongue Totem, just to reward Hyped, because I feel like that's a play that deserves some reward.
That definitely, I'm in favor for that. Innervate comes in the hand, so Trump does have some mana, but the problem is what you mentioned. Still no swipe, still no way to easily control the state of the board. Unless Harrison draws into swipe, that's his only opportunity. And that's very, very optimistic.
He's been just trying to draw that swipe for the, like, ever since turn 5. So, with 3 turns in a row, essentially.
Innervate scenarios.
Okay, so with this play, he makes sure that he takes off Spell Power off to the board, so Blade Flurry, just with the standard weapon, and a Phantom Knives won't be able to just clear these
Right, but I think that's game anyways.
Yeah.
Backstab, oil, blade flurry should be enough to end the game here. And most likely, there's a strong likelihood that it lands on the right minion. Just for the kicks and giggles. Nope. It doesn't matter. That's game. And Hyped is going to take game number 2 against Druid. So the Rogue is out of the way, even though it might have been targeted. And as a result, now it's Druid Mage versus Druid and Hunter.
Yeah, that was definitely a key win for Hyped, as I believe Trump's strategy going to this was definitely to target the Rogue. Typed really need to win this, because if he went on to the next matchup, which would have been Rogue versus Face Hunter, then it would be pretty much no way for Hype to come back from that situation. So he needed to win the more 50-50 Rogue versus Druid matchup.
Agreed.
I really liked how Hype played that game too, actually, because he recognized that his opponent didn't have a swipe to deal with the Violet Teacher, so he kind of went full all in with that play, basically using a preparation and a Blade Flurry just to summon 2 1/1s and put more pressure on the board.
Yep, very good play overall. And that goes into what could potentially be a big 50-50 coin flip for Trump, because the problem is that Mage exists. So if I'm Hyped, I want to make sure that Mage lines up against the Druid. Oh, actually, hold on. I'm jumping conclusions here. We don't know what Mage it is. It's just that when I casted Hype very recently, he was playing Mech Mage.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming it is that. But, of course, it could be Freeze Mage because he loves Freeze Mage. It could be Flood Mage, too, if Reynad convinced him.
That's true. We know that, again, in the Kingwin Pro League about 2 days ago, Hyped had to play Reynad, and he used Mech Mage in that series. But then he had to play against RDU, and he used Freeze Mage in the second series. So Hyped, even though he's going to play the 3 same classes over and over again, he does mix it up a little bit every single time.
All right. Well, the only thing is that I feel like it's going to be Druid versus Druid to come up next. Actually,
we do have to honor the tradition of pretty much every player winning at least one game with Druid, right?
Yeah, I'm just thinking like how it matches up. Like if I'm Trump and I know that the Mage is available, and say the Mage is a bad matchup, then I'd want to queue up Druid, right? So that way, if at worst, if it's a bad matchup, I get it out of the way, and then no. Actually, I don't know how to do this. It's 50-50, I think.
No.
It's like if you guess either way wrong, because then Hype could be using the Mage to avoid that.
I feel like Hype is the player with more cards going into this next game, because he knows what kind of Mage he's playing.
Right.
And while like Trump could be playing a different kind of Hunter, he might not be playing Face Hunter. But I think it's like 99% certain that he is going to be playing Face Hunter, just like the rest of our, the rest of the players here.
So if he's playing Face Hunter, then the best thing for him to do is to pick Hunter, and then...
Well, he's picking Hunter here.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And then Hype should pick Druid for sure, so that way Mage can pick, making sure that it lines up. So that's what's happening. Hype comes in with Druid versus Hunter, a matchup that people keep telling me, man, that the Druid is favored against the Face Hunter, but I keep seeing the Face Hunter win most of the time.
Yeah, the same thing to me actually. Like, most people do tell me that the Druid is like heavily favored or to slightly favored, but what I've been seeing in tournaments, especially, is that Hunters, they just dominate everyone. And I think one point is because like possibly on ladder, there's more Hunters on ladder than in tournaments generally, except for like in this tournament for some reason. And on ladder, you have to kind of gear more towards aggro. So maybe on ladder, players are winning slightly more against Face Hunter, whereas in tournaments, players are playing more control style, more slightly more greedy. So their decks are not as great against Face Hunter.
Yeah, it could be skewed against that. Who knows? All right, Druid versus Hunter. The winner of this comes in with a pretty big advantage going for the rest of the series here. I'm feeling like if Hyped wins this, he's in a pretty good position. I think his lineup, if he can defeat this, will be pretty much almost the same as defeating Lothar's as well. That said, Lothar played pretty well against Savit, so maybe Lothar will struggle, or maybe Lothar will be able to take out Hyped, who seems to struggle with some consistency issues in tournament performances.
Yeah. I feel like you said, I feel like if Hyped gets over the hump that is Trump, then that's completely unintentional, by the way.
Uh-huh.
The hump that is Trump.
Keep going.
Then like his lineup will be really good against the other players, like you said, just because like Trump did try to target Hyped at least to some extent, so other players won't be targeting him, and he'll have like at least more of a 50-50 in terms of class matchups.
All right, so there's a Zombie Chow in this deck. I think there's also a Hogger in here.
Based on
the fact that I was telling Hype that some people are experimenting with Hogger in the deck as good anti-aggro measures.
Sure.
And Hype was like, okay. And he tried it out, and he said that he liked it a little bit. So maybe he's going to do it here now.
Didn't he put a Hogger in his deck yesterday in the Amazon tournament?
He did as well. Yeah,
so
right.
why is Hogger good at the aggro matchup?
Well, if you can innovate it out, like how did aggro ever deal with it? It's like 4 health, which is just inconvenient enough for Hunter to never kill it. Like kill command and eagle horn bow, like all those different things, and you're constantly spawning taunt minions.
That's true.
Really problematic.
Yeah, and like if you try to silence it, like you either have to silence the taunt or the Hogger, and you can't have the boast of both ones, right?
Oh, Hype's drawing almost immaculately. He just,
wow.
I mean, he's gotten the Keep of the Grove, so he can tackle whatever 2 health minion comes out, which is most likely going to be this Knife Juggler. Shut it down.
How bad does this feel? Oh man.
Well,
this is,
if this juggle misses, it's bad news for Trump.
He's even showing the Knife Juggler where to go.
Yeah.
Pointing the way, and
okay, so that's definitely good news for Trump.
That could have been like the key turning point in the game. That being said, Hype does have the perfect Keep of the Grove to answer this.
And this is one instance where I think... Alright, I'm trying to evaluate how good that hover is. I guess it's good because it gets damage in.
It's also good because no matter what it was, like it can get swiped this turn anyway.
Right.
Oh, just an
Drake trade.
Okay.
Force of Nature. I mean, he's got combo. And he's got Spell Power Swipe. Good lord, that's brutal.
Okay. I think Trump might have been able to consider just throwing out his Haunted Creepers. Possibly hoping for, like, proccing both Haunted Creepers with a Knife Juggler. That could have been a pretty impactful play, but if you go for that line of play, you're really vulnerable to swipe.
So, Hype also can Wrath for 1, or sorry, Wrath for 2, and draw a card, and then swipe and guarantee that he clears everything. In fact, he can swipe the face! He can go full Dennis. Hogger makes an appearance.
Nice.
And
just listening to you, Frodan, lets you possibly win tournaments.
There you go, Hypes. I always say this because, like, I'll tell a story. A lot of times I feel like, you know, players, I think Hype is like a really, like a scientific player. He really likes testing and experimenting. And like half the times when I suggest something, like he just doesn't respond to it. I'm like, oh, Hype, maybe you should try this. And he just doesn't respond to me for like 5 hours. And then I was like, so how'd it go? He's like, oh yeah, that was bad. And I'm like, oh. And so what happens is, the one time he responds well was this Druid deck, so I was like, all right, so finally Hype decided to listen to me, or like listen to suggestion, and now it's like the Hogger's doing work, man. Look at it.
Yeah, Trump is even giving a slight juggle. So Trump will have to actually Arcane Golem into the Hogger.
Well, what's funny is that now Hype can actually just swipe the face and kill next turn. Like, or, you know, he can do whatever he wants because he's got combo. And there's almost no way he can lose this.
Sure, swipe the face in hero power.
Yeah.
And then not even quick shot, kill command kills you. That's enough. That's it doesn't really matter.
Well, because it takes the beast off the board.
Yeah.
So quick shot, kill command is 3, 6.
It's too much mana. Right?
No, it's enough. It's 2 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana. So that's,
oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So that's 6. That's 11 damage, plus the. Yeah, you're right. It's not.
Just Savage Roar here.
My Savage Roar to clear, so he Savage Roars the spiders and then swipes it.
Okay. Sure.
And then guaranteed kill. There's really nothing Trump can do.
Loatheb.
Aw, poor Trump. He's in a really. It looks like he just gotten his action figure taken away from him. Just pretty upset.
He looks like he got hit in the belly.
Yeah. He got swiped to the face twice.
That's true.
And his board's clear. That's it.
Hyped. Why are you cyberbullying Trump?
Oh man, Hogger doing work, man. The only thing is that I know that in this deck, there's also some other suggestions that Hype didn't agree with. So
what other brilliant suggestions did you have for Hype?
Well, I was talking about like whether or not he really likes late game cards, because I know some people put Ragnaros also in that deck. And I'm not sure if he did or didn't anymore. He said that he was testing it. It wasn't really good. So it all is about he took the deck and then he just started playing around with it. So maybe he does have big minions like Cenarius, and maybe he doesn't. I'm not exactly sure.
Okay. Yeah, it's a strategy of some players just to put very anti-aggro cards in their decks, because you're going to expecting Face Hunter every single time, and at least like Druid every single time. And Hogger is even okay, especially when you use Emperor Thorazane in your deck against Druid, right?
Yeah, who knows? Maybe he does put it in. Like he was in the middle of testing it when I was last talking to him with it. But the point is, he won with the game, so I'm pretty happy. Good stuff, man. All right, so Trump, unfortunately, he's down to his last life here. How is he going to be able to turn it around? He has to win Druid versus Mage and Hunter versus Mage. Hunter versus Mage seems highly doable. The problem is if this is a mech mage and then Hyped has those mirror entities, and I'm all for Hyped advancing because I predicted him to win the bracket, but it always warms my heart to see Trump do well, just because I know that as a popular figure, people often question the integrity of competition if he's in, because it's like, yeah, are you inviting Trump because he's good or because he's popular? And the answer oftentimes is both.
Yeah. Like previously, I would have agreed with the sentiment that Trump was not one of the best players in the world. Like pretty much all of 2013 and the front half of 2014, I have to say like Trump wasn't the absolute top of the top, but he's been really improving lately, and I definitely see him getting #1 with Legend pretty regularly. I mean, is a pretty good accomplishment.
He's peeled off the arena. I mean, I don't really see Trump streaming arena as often anymore, even though he still does occasionally dip his toes into the limited format.
Yep.
And Trump still is well known as one of the experts there. I still think Trump's really gravitated towards constructed heavily.
Yeah, he's getting the sensation of his competitive spirit in his eyes.
Here we go. We got Blingtron 3000. That's a card that was brought with Raynad with Water Elemental, so it looks like he's taking a leaf out of his teammate's book.
Yeah, that being said, in the previous tournament I saw from Hyped, when he used Mech Mage, he actually played Blingtron 3000 without the Water Elementals. He played Piloted Treaders instead. So he's just using it in combination with the Snow Chuggers, and just also just using it for, like, maybe with the Neurotrons as well. And as well as because it's a mech, and it provides you with a weapon so you can hit one turn before they can.
It's so funny if Blingtron ends up giving like a really good weapon to the Face Hunters, like the last thing you want.
That is true. Like in other matchups, if you give your opponent a weapon, they have to actually like hit stuff with the weapon, so they do damage to themselves. But yeah, Face Hunter can just afford to hit face.
All right, so Hyped has Clockwork Gnome and Cogmaster to start things off, and Neutron is a pretty big MVP as well. Not to mention that it complicates things when Trump wants to make sure to keep putting damage onto the face, and then the Neutron stops any charger.
Yeah, what's so great about it is that usually a Neutron is a bad draw in the later stages of the game against control matchups, but against Face Hunter, like you're never sad to see a Neutron, because it stops the early game aggression from the Leopard Gnomes, and it trades really well, and also stops the late game aggression. Like you force your opponent to have an R&B Cal, and even though that's like most of the time they do, but still trading a 2-drop for a 2-drop essentially is pretty good for your side, I would say. Whereas normally they R&B Cal your Sludge Belcher, and like you have to trade your Sludge Belcher into the R&B Cal anyway.
Well, now all of a sudden Trump's introduced with a lot of choices here. Does he want to invite the Mech Mage into a pretty favorable race, honestly, or does he want to start making sure that his board's good? Because the mad scientist will bait out, or sorry, not bait out, will fish out the explosive trap, and it can control the state of the board, but how much damage will he take in the process?
a good question.
This is a really tough spot, actually. Like, already on turn 2, Trump's presented with a really difficult turn. If he takes out the Cogmaster and plays, like, the Mad Scientist, then Hyped can really easily take control of the board and have Snow Chugger so that stops almost any weapon that comes out the next turn.
I think he might have been considering just trading for the what's the little dude called? The 2/1? The Clockwork Gnome, yeah. For that, just in case like his opponent, in case Hype like for some reason didn't have a 2-drop as a mech. But when you see your opponent coining out like double 1-drop, most likely they'll have either Snow Chugger, Neutron, or Mech Warper.
Right. The follow-up is very likely considering how many 1s and 2s are in the deck. Hyped has the Snow Chugger or Neutron. Now there are merits to both, right? The Snow Chugger does stop any weapons, but if your opponent has an Eagle Horn bow, then it gets frozen anyways. And Neutron's more guaranteed consistency in terms of stopping anything. Either way, I think you want to kill this Mad Scientist, right?
Yeah, I like the Snow Chugger a little better. I think you just want the Divine Shield plus the taunt of the Neutron in a later stage of the game. Like, I don't think it's actually the Neutron is, in this position, it's that strong. But he's going to go with that instead of, is he actually just going to go for face here? I would imagine if he does this play, he might just want to race his opponent.
That'd be interesting if he does. So he's putting his opponent on Unleash the Hounds to control the board or bust. And maybe this juggle could be a huge factor if it lands on the Clockwork
Really good
Gnome.
chance that it's going to be really good. Like,
nasty.
Yeah, that was the best possible scenario, but even if it landed on Divine Shield, that still would have been alright. And now Hyped is at a pretty huge tempo disadvantage.
Yeah, killing off that Clockwork Gnome was such a big deal for Trump, because now that this Knife Juggler doesn't get traded into the minion, Hyped has to use another spell or another 2 mana. If that lived, he would have traded in, and he could have developed Snow Chugger and Cogmaster instead. Whirling Blade allows him to trade into this Knife Juggler.
Oh, very defensive play from Hype, just cleaning up the board a bit.
No, Unleash the Hound's not going to do much. Glaive Zuka pretty nasty with the Worgen Infiltrator. It's the ideal scenario, but this is what Hype was accounting for as well, like being able to use the Mage Hero power and pick it off. And I mean, he's going to be up in cards. The card advantage is pretty huge.
Yeah, but like you said previously, this Fireball is going to be really dead.
Against Hunter.
Yeah, against Hunter. Like, what are you going to Fireball, really?
Only to race.
Another variation of another differentiation that Hyped has made between his Mech Mage and other Mech Mages is that instead of Spider Tanks, he chooses to play Harvest Golems, which I feel are like pretty good in this matchup, because they're a little stickier on the board.
Yeah, a little less power doesn't mean too much if you need to like trade against Wolf Rider. Hey, that's something you can Fireball.
Nice. I guess, like, it's actually a pretty big decision as to whether you Fireball it or Frostbolt ping it. You kind of waste a bit of damage if you Fireball it, but I think, like you said, the Frostbolt is just generally, like, more valuable in the matchup.
Oh, man, okay. So, with the Snow Chugger, you have to protect that at all costs. And now that you have Blingtron, I think keeping the Frostbolt's even more important.
Yeah.
I think you want to use Fireball just because Cogmaster... just because Frostbolt's more versatile mana-wise, right?
That's...
But you're right in the sense that maybe you need a race.
That's true.
Also, what's really nasty is that Exposure Trap will put it down to 1, and the Unleash the Hound should be able to pick it off. Especially if he picks up Knife Juggler. So the race is on, so to speak, but... I mean, Trump's starting off with a pretty significant lead.
RP Gal even, too.
Mm-hmm.
So at this point, it's, again, like the conflicting decision that you have to make. Do you want to let go of your hand and fit in more hero powers? Or let go of your hand as fast as possible, or fit in as many hero powers as possible? Just for that quick shot.
I don't mind fitting in more hero powers. Quick shot can, I mean, you still have opportunities in the following late stages of the turn where quick shot can pick up even more cards and use up your mana that way. I don't think it's a rush right now to dump your entire hand.
This might be just one of those games where Blingtron 3000 decides the game. I say one of those games like it's very common in Hearthstone, right? Oh, both to face.
Well, interestingly enough, yeah, actually, it's really interesting considering that Blingtron now is pretty relevant, especially if he picks up like Doomhammer, right? Because then he can clean. Well, everything gets cleaned up here.
Oh, so.
Oh, he got Eagle Horn Bow. That's so funny.
I think Trump got Arcanine Reaper.
Really? Hold on. So 3 damage. So he puts 6 damage, 18. I'm assuming that Trump will clean up the Snow Chugger. 18. So that's 6, 9, 15 next turn. Oh man, this is a really tough decision because he's not guaranteed to kill. I do like attack to the face, but wow, what a weapon to give your opponent. Holy cow.
Fortunately for Trump, he didn't trade into the Snow Chugger. I wonder if he is actually like expecting this to happen at all.
No, because people don't really play Blingtron that often.
But again, Hype does play it, and if Trump had done his research, he would have known that. Iron Peak out of the face.
3, 6, 8, 11, 17, 18 with Fireball. If Trump does not trade anything and just goes full on face, sciences like Snow Chugger, for example, most likely silence the Cog Master.
I feel like you can just afford to trade in some of your hounds at this moment, because as long as you're unfrozen in the next turn, then you'll probably have lethal. Just because of the sheer damage. Like,
well, you have quick shot plus hero power no matter what. Hype meets Frostbolt. No, that's not it. He's got 7, 13, 14 damage right now. Just a little bit short, but still pretty far off. 4 damage is a considerable amount. Two Taunt Technician might
not going to do anything. Not even a taunt would work. Yep, that's it.
Yeah, the quick shot just burns him through. So it looks like Hyped is done. The taunt in his mind actually did have relevance, I think. Yeah. What a pretty crazy game, man. But Trump's Hunter does push through. And that means we go to game 5. Druid versus that Mech Mage.
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to see more Blingtron, man. Blingtron's fun.
Yeah, especially giving Druids Blingtron weapons.
That's
and
right.
then having them Savagery. Actually, that doesn't work. That doesn't work.
But I have a question. So Savage Roar works too, right? So if it's like you get Doomhammer and then you hero power Savage Roar, it does like 5 damage. It's like getting it's like getting a Rock Biter. Pretty fun stuff, man. Trump is going to be going up against this Mage deck. What do you think is like the key to disarming Mech Mage here?
I think the key is just, honestly, just teching out your deck correctly. Either having enough Zombie Chows or enough Kazan Mystics in your deck, because really, there's a lot of reasons why Mech Mage is good against Druid, but I feel like the key reason is Mirror Entity. Like the Mirror Entity, Druid typically they have the biggest minions out of all classes, and if Mirror Entity steals something from the Druid, like a Yeti or a Piloted Shredder, that's like a really low mana costing card from the Druid in comparison, but it's still so impactful.
All right, well. Let's see what he's got. I think Hyped should be in a pretty good spot still. I don't think the Blingtron changes much, right?
Yeah, we just talk about it a lot because it's an interesting card.
It's the cool card.
But I don't think it makes that much of a difference.
It's cool because I think that was the card in Goblins vs. Gnomes where everyone's like, well, that's a fun card, but I don't think anyone's actually going to play it competitively. It's more of like, you know, like even Blizzard said, We made this card because everyone was talking about the possibility of making weapons for classes. Well, there you go. You can play weapons in classes.
The funniest thing about the Blingtron 3000 is that the first 2 players to ever use Blingtron were Amaz.
And Priest.
In Priest, and then Reynad in Mage.
And Mage.
I just wanted to point that out. I don't have any conclusions to draw from that.
Sure.
But yeah, just like to put that out there.
Fair enough. It's a completely valid criticism that Amaz did it first in Priest. So I think this Mage deck should still be okay. So I guess we're going to find out what happens. The more important question is, how far could either of these players go? Because Hype and Trump both have yet to have a tournament win, right?
Yeah.
I think Hype's gotten second multiple times.
Trump's
gotten top 4 multiple times.
He's gotten top 4 like 3 times in a row, I believe. In a series of tournaments.
And you know, when's it gonna happen? We'll find out. That opening hand from Mech Mage is not that strong. Oh, I guess. Oh, sorry, I miswatched it. I don't have my glasses on. The opening hand though with Innervate and Keeper of the Grove is excellent though for Trump.
Yeah, certainly. But as we can see, we saw in previous games against from Druid versus either Mech or Tempo Mage, even though Druid can have some really strong openings, they sometimes struggle to follow it up because of just the pressure from Mech Mage. Just a lot of solid minions over and over again that Druid can't possibly deal with.
But, you know, if you're playing Harvest Golems as Spider Tank, you know, does that make a big difference? I mean, the stats are pretty significant, the 4 health compared to 3, and then the remaining damage golem can get swiped off.
Not really sure. I'm actually really curious as to why Hyped is going against the grain and going with the Harvest Golems instead of Spider Tanks. I imagine they're slightly better in some matchups, like against Shaman, I believe they're probably better. Against Paladin, they might be better. Just all the board control centric matchups. But I think against Druid, you might just want like a stronger initial body, the 3/4, just to hit 3 damage every turn to the face instead of 2 damage. Because we see in this matchup, a lot of times it does come down to whether the Druid, or rather the Mage, can top deck the Fireball or Frostbolt in the late stages of the game. And oftentimes at those stages, even 1 damage matters.
Trump trying to decide what's best to go with the curve, but the Keeper to shut down the Cogmaster is probably the best play he could have asked for.
Yeah, this is the only play that I see that can shut down not only the Cogmaster, but also a potential future Mech Warper.
And just like that, I mean, it's really difficult for Hype to try and climb back from here because the Snow Chugger is going to just get contested pretty easily by the hero power. That means Tinkertown goes down as a 3/3. I mean, these are all decisions that are snowballing because of the fact that Keeper of the Grove came down on turn 1. Really big moment for Trump here. Oh, that's a really good draw, though. Man, actually, that's so big, especially if if Hype picks up a way to squeeze an even better mana next turn. I'm really scared for a Goblin Blast Mage top deck and Wreckage here.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Mech Mage games recently.
Wait, yeah, where's the Goblin Blast Mage?
Yeah, we haven't seen a single Goblin Blast Mage all day.
Surely they're still in the deck, right? There's no way they took them out.
There's no way. You're not cutting the best card in your deck.
How is it just not making an appearance? Time Rewinder. Well, that gives him room to play the Annoyatron again, I guess.
It actually might be very relevant in the coming turns because Hype's hand is looking pretty anemic. Like if he draws pretty dead in the next turn, then he might just have to time rewinder his Tinkertown Technician, for example.
Yeah, I guess the one thing you're concerned about is swipe, but it's still...
Oh, okay, so you can just time rewinder now for value.
And makes sense given that he doesn't want to play around swipe there. Savage Roar. So I guess he's just going to develop the Pilot Shredder, just try to see if he can contest the board. I'd be... Let's see, he actually has another viable play here with Wild Growth, so that way he can play Sylvanas, but is that too slow? It does allow him to take out the Annoyatron so that there's no mech synergy.
I do have to agree that Sylvanas might be a little too slow in this matchup.
I think Pilot Shredder addresses the threat here and now. He holds on attacking the Annoyatron because there's a pretty easy trade.
So I think on this turn, you definitely want to get the Mad Scientist out. Just because, as we've said before, Mirror Entity is the best card in your deck against this in this particular matchup, and you don't necessarily want to play it from your deck, but getting it out of the Mad Scientist is pretty much ideal. Frostbolt also looks very tempting on the 4-3.
Especially because if you can kill it with if you can kill whatever pops out with the Tinkertown, it's pretty reasonable to protect the Neutron, so that way the board still stays relatively strong.
Yeah, especially if the Tinkertown is left at either 3 or 2 HP, it's going to be very difficult for Trump to deal 2 or 3 damage.
More often than not, though, it's just going to be a 2-attack minion. Over 50% of the time. Oh! That's really bad news.
So Piloted Shredder was just reborn as a...
Yeah, another 4-3.
As like a demon chick.
That's one of the worst outcomes, sort of Millhouse Mana Storm. You know, we've seen a lot of 4-attack minions pop out today with the Pilot Shredder.
Yeah, we've seen 1 Millhouse and 1 Succubus. I mean, there are actually probably certainly worse options, like of course Millhouse Mana Storm, but Unstable Ghoul might have been worse. Probably not actually, but Explosive Sheep probably would have been worse, and Doomsayer would have certainly been worse.
I feel like I would like to see Trump keep this big game hunter, because 1, you know, Dr. Boom comes out, but 2, the fact that Mad Scientist might be coming out, and you have to be mindful of the Mirror Entity.
Yeah, I completely agree with
that. And I'd rather give that than the threat of Sylvanas.
Yeah, you're slightly ahead on board anyway, and you have a Sylvanas coming up in a following turn, so I think you're going to be fine. Ooh, Harvest Gold.
That works out perfectly, in fact. Gives out the Harvest Gold. But here's another catch-22, right? You play the big game hunter because you know the Mirror Entity is there, but then the Dr. Boom comes out.
Wrath.
Wrath could help. But again, is it a symptom of the overall problem? But here's another thing, too. If you just Wrath and you get nothing, is it okay just to pass? Because it's just a Harvest Golem. What's on the board?
That's true. It's not a Spider Tank, right?
Oh, he's going to test for Counterspell first?
That kind of makes sense as well, because if it's not Counterspell, you can actually clear the first half of the Harvest Golem token. Or actually draw for 1. You can draw for 1 here.
Yep. Like it. I was thinking killing off the Mech Warper too, but yeah. Wrathing for 1's also okay. I like it. Really good play from Trump so far.
What this does is actually, if Hyped plays that Dr. Boom on this turn, then Trump can actually just play the Big Game Hunter right now.
Yeah, but then there's still... Okay, so as like before, if he didn't have any other play, say that was, you know, Force of Nature, still a tough spot, but now he's fought back pretty reasonably well. The Boombot still can have high impact, though. It's still damage also on the other end. 4, 8, 11 damage. Snow Chugger, pretty reasonable. These Boombots can have such a world's-making difference here. So Hyped lost out on the Pilot Shredder RNG. If these Boombots hit for significant damage on either the Pilot Shredder or vice versa, that's bad news for Trump.
Oh, Mana Addict.
So I think that's what he wanted before, right?
Yeah, but we actually saw in a recent tournament where Mana Addict just won the game, right? Did you guys that
yesterday. That was actually Hype's game.
Yeah. Did Hype win with that Mana Addict?
He did. The Mana Addict with spare parts was like just a buttload of damage.
I actually like attacking with one of the Boombots here into the Mana Addict.
Okay, 1 damage to the face, pretty mediocre. Trade.
Yeah, I think that play might have been slightly worse if he weren't playing around Mind Control tech. I guess it guarantees damage to the face. That's one benefit of it.
Ultimately, that's what he wants. This Big Game Hunter is still doing work. Oh man, Clockwork Gnome.
What a bottom deck here.
Bottom deck. Oh, man.
Yeah, so we're looking at a scenario where, yet again, the
Fireball is going to be the top deck.
Exactly.
Although, I mean, Is it gonna be? Because the Ancient Lord is gonna heal him out of range.
It's gonna heal him, but what else are you gonna like? Are you gonna hero power to clear a minion? I would probably say so.
Have to. The scary thing is what comes out of that Clockwork Gnome. And then the doubly scary thing is
If Archmage
Antonitis comes in the hand. Fireball is 1 damage off lethal. Harvest Golem's not it. It's a sticky minion. Requires a little bit of extra split attention. Druid can't use its hero power.
Yeah, I guess in this scenario, Harvest Golem is actually better than Spire Tank because Spire Tank would just get traded into.
More minions. But, you know, a minion that fits the hero power. I think Hyped realizes that Trump will be continuing to hero power, so his best chance is to make sure that these trades are really awkward. I would be so surprised if Hype can really pull this through, though, because I feel like Druid's basically stabilized.
I mean, it's still possible that Hype basically needs 2 top decks in a row. He can either top deck Archmage and Antonitis, or he can top deck 2 Fireballs or a Fireball and a Frostbolt, something like that, twice in a row. So I think it's still very possible for Hype to win because Trump's going to give him so many turns. Like right now, Hyped is still at 30 HP. I know that's going to go down pretty quickly, but Hyped always has like a ping to either the Cenarius or the Zombie Chow in order just to heal up a lot or just prevent 5 damage. Fireball!
Oh, Fireball is one of those cards.
So
Do you keep it? I would imagine you'd keep it, right? Because even if you draw Antonitis. What? He's trolling. Oh, he's bluffing!
Yeah, he's bluffing the reversing switch.
Oh, man. I don't even know why that's even relevant. I don't know why we're getting excited.
It's a pretty cool play. Like you see a lot of players try to bluff, but usually they do a really bad job of it.
Yeah,
I think
they're not fooling anybody.
Yeah,
with
I think like if I were Trump, I would be really fooled by that.
Yeah. Ah, Drew the Claw is something you get to put pressure on. In fact, Drew the Claw is pretty decent because then now he can really threaten to push the second half. Because right now he's only got half the life of Hyped, right? He's got 15 damage on board. But that Zombie Chow is going to bring back a little bit of it. That Drew the Claw is really good pressure, so that way you got a 2-turn kill.
Yep.
I like playing Drew the Claw in charge mode here. But there's still a chance, right? Is there?
Yeah.
Hyped has Fireball, and he at least has another Frostbolt.
Yeah, he's thinking. I think Trump right now is just thinking like, what happens if Archmage Antonitis comes down and all the scenarios. So I think he plays this because if Archmage comes down, he can steal it, and then potentially with like another spell, he can just win the game. Or maybe just like, I don't know, he's playing around Flame Strike.
Right. It's the same difference. It's still a 2-turn kill. Pilot Shredder is not it for Hyped. And I think that's it, right? There's no way he can survive unless
he can hero power the Zombie Chow and then Fireball Sylvanas.
Oh man.
So
and then play the Pilot Shredder.
Yeah, so essentially like Hyped is pretty dead, but not necessarily dead in the next turn.
Yeah, he is.
Even if he does that though, so
he is dead though.
Hyped goes back to 19 HP, so yeah, he's still dead, but not on board.
Right. He's calculating the odds of that happening. The alternative, is there any alternative whatsoever? I don't think so. And that means Trump is going to go to the round of 8. He gets revenge for last week where Hype defeated him in Nvidia. And that means that Trump's going to the round of 8.
Nice.
Wow, what a really intense game. Oh, there's room for Trump BM. Does he BM? No, he's not.
Does he Wrath and then miss lethal because a taunt comes up?
That'd be pretty funny, man, but I don't think that's Trump's style.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen Trump BM.
I think I have. Okay. I think I have once on stream, and it was by accident.
Okay. Trump definitely. If any player were to accidentally BM, I would definitely have to guess it would be Trump.
All right, well, that wraps up game number 5, and Hyped is out of the tournament, which, you know, that kind of destroys the bracket on my end because I thought Hyped would go to the semifinals here. But good for Trump. Congratulations to him.
Good for me because my bracket is actually one step up. It's the only player that I guess to advance, and you didn't guess to advance who actually advanced. So
Right.
a point is on my board, and 1 is subtracted from yours. So I'm always happy when that happens.
All right, well, we have 2 more series remains. It's Maz and Firebat series, and we said that. Oh, sorry, Maz versus Tides and Firebat versus Show, because of course we were accommodating for Pinnacle 3. I'm guessing a Maz and Tides is next. So that'll be coming up on stream in just a few minutes, guys. Thank you so much to Xfinity for supporting the event. Make sure to check out all their cool stuff, especially if you're looking for Wi-Fi and whatnot. We have a bunch of information on xfinityhearthstone.com. We'll be back with more here at the ESL Burbank Studios. So from Frodan Monk, we'll be seeing you in just a few minutes. Take it easy.